There once was a guy living in a land down under, writing songs for the ages, only meant for the big stages. He had some ups and downs, but you won't see a frown, 'cause he's a positive fella. You can stand under his umbrella. Yeah, he's nice like that. He'd even give you his hat. But when you order some salad, he will without a fail. He will take your kale, 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 because his name is that. Kale, 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 kale. No, he will never get fat. Kale, 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 kale. He's good for you. Kale, 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 kale. He's a really good dude. C to the A to the L to the E. Yeah, you know I'm talking about kale. Not the vegetable, the person. That's right. Wait, what's his name again? Kale. Ladies and gentlemen, Kale Anderson.
Hello. Welcome to the Kale Anderson podcast. I'm your host, Kale Anderson, of course. And before I get into it, I just want to talk a bit about my website. My new website is scorpico.com. skorpoko.com. And there you can find a playlist that I'm uploading right now that has 199 songs. I want the 200th song to be special, and it's probably going to be a new song that I create over the next few days or week or so. So it's going to be a 200 song playlist that gets updated regularly, and you can just hit shuffle on that and then get a kind of randomized playlist of all my material, most of my material, some of my material. I mean, I got a lot of songs, probably like over 1,000 songs out in the world, especially on bandcamp.com, kaleanderson.bandcamp.com. So yeah, this playlist is called A Bundle of Kale, a playlist that'll be updated regularly. And it's gonna take ages to upload, I've realized that now, and I can't remember where I was going with this, but that's on the website. You can also find Diamond. Diamond is one of the releases that I made a long time ago now, and that's available on my website. You can also find a collection of photographs that I've taken since I was like 16 years old, maybe even younger. And I'm going to add more pictures up there as well. It's like a little database, of pictures from like different websites and stuff that they're special pictures to me. And you can find them on the music page. There's also a podcast on there called the Batw Podcast, which is Breezy in the Wilderness. And that's got one episode at the moment, the introductory episode. It goes for 27 minutes. And it's about drugs and a bunch of other things. But this podcast, Breezy in the Wilderness, is a audio podcast that explores topics like spirituality and music and the psychedelic experiences that we have. In that episode, I explore some ideas and give the podcast just a bit of direction for years to come. Sorry about my heavy breathing. I can hear it through my headphones. There's not much I can do to change that, unless I edit. But who can be fucked editing an hour-long episode when I take a breath every 5 seconds? Yeah, so where to begin? This is different to Breezy in the Wilderness. Breezy in the Wilderness is a completely scripted show, so everything I talk about on Breezy in the Wilderness is pretty much all written down, except for some side tangents and jokes and stuff. That's a scripted show. This is a bit different. This is just off the top of the noggin, random, whatever comes to mind. So that's the Cale Anderson podcast, and I sort of like that idea more of just free range, but I'm not as good as staying on track when I'm free range, when I'm a free range chicken. I want to read you a trip report that I'm working on from my first magic mushroom experience. I had a magic mushroom experience back in the day at my friend's house. And the trip lasted, I ate a lot of mushrooms, probably like a bag. Like a big McDonald's bag. Like the typical size McDonald's bag. I shared that with a friend, and it was pretty much full to the brim of mushrooms. And heaps of trippy shit happened. Like I saw myself turn old right in front of my very own eyes. Looking in the mirror, I saw myself become like an 85 to 90-year-old man. And then I went on a massive adventure. I'll probably throw some stuff in as I read this trip report. Like some extra details and tidbits and stuff. But this is how it went down. In late 2010, I ingested a bag of magic mushrooms. They were wet, but the weight was well over 10 grams dry worth, as they were very thick and there were a lot of mushrooms in that bag. Even so, at one point, I also consumed a cup of strong mushroom tea my friend made. I don't remember how many mushrooms were in the cup, but it was quite a lot. At this point in my life, I had been smoking weed every day for about a year and a half to 2 years. Anyway, there's a lot about the trip which is a little hazy since it was almost 12 years ago, so apologies if certain details are missing from this trip report. In any case, here's what happened. I believe after ingesting the shrooms around 9 p.m. on a weekend, it may have been a Saturday night, I started to feel some nausea and diarrhea-like symptoms about 30 to 45 minutes later, and I was wondering who in the world would do something like this to themselves. I hadn't heard much about magic mushrooms from anyone except the person who was throwing the mushroom party that night. I didn't even know psilocybin was the name of these magic mushrooms. In hindsight, these mushrooms were named Psilocybe aeruginosa. Mushrooms weren't popular where I was living at this time. They are now. And I guess they weren't as mainstream as they are today in other parts of the world either. So this place that I was at was like a mushroom party. There was about 10 to 12 of us, and people were just tripping balls, and some of them couldn't handle it. Some of them went to bed early, or at least tried to, and then finally fell asleep at some point. So like most of the people there we didn't see much of. There was probably like 6 or 7 of us that were really involved in the party. So continuing on. I felt vibrations going up my body in what I can only describe as a sensation of extremely intimate energy. If it was kicking in this fast, and from what I'd heard, the mushroom trip might last up to 5 to 7 hours, I knew I was in for something wild if it did. The next thing I know, every time I closed my eyes, a woman's form would appear. She appeared to be some sort of Hindu goddess and was full of colour and extremely gorgeous, incredibly gorgeous. This sort of scared me at first. The waves I was feeling in my physical body were becoming more intense, and they felt like waves of energy going up my spine. As I was lying on my back, I suddenly saw a lot of colours coming from the ceiling, which started to increase in frequency quickly with each wave that went through me. It reminded me of when you look at something bright underwater, but it only happens for a split second before you blink your eyes. But this time it kept happening over and over again. So there was no way to shut it off by closing my eyes, because this would just keep happening every few seconds while I was closed-eyed. This is when things got really interesting. The room seemed like some sort of god had taken it upon himself to infuse all the walls and ceiling in a variety of colours, including purples, blues, oranges and greens. It then seemed like this god infused the intricacies of this new canvas with moving, pulsating patterns and visuals that seemed to be very animated and multidimensional. It felt like I was on a beautiful tropical island paradise, only I was looking at it through a glass bubble that had been endlessly covered with vivid colours by an artist. I felt a deep appreciation and gratitude for the way this energy was making me feel. It was as if I was having a spiritual experience in this bedroom, which I thought was pretty cool at the time, even though it did freak me out a little bit. As one of my friends said when he came into the room later for a while after that, "Dude, yeah man, you're tripping balls." He didn't know what mushrooms were until that night, because he wasn't used to seeing me hallucinate either. The colours became more pronounced and seemed like they were alive or coming toward me. They would move into each other and then merge to create different colours before they spread apart again to form new ones. They just kept coming and coming. It almost looked like the kind of thing you'd see in a kaleidoscope, except it was on an incredibly higher level. I began to feel very intoxicated in a way where I didn't feel in control of my thoughts or my body, yet everything seemed perfectly natural in a lot of ways for me at the time in my life about having an experience such as this. In hindsight, after doing some research about mushrooms later when I got older, I found out that this is what they call vibrational state, which might explain why I felt these waves going through me over and over again, while there were also colours all around me that looked like they were alive. People have said that they don't like the vibrational state. I remember thinking to myself, how could they not like feeling this way? It was pretty awesome. At that time, while I would only describe these visuals as somewhat solid at best, since it seemed like they were part of my consciousness or something, there were still other times when everything appeared like a plain colour like white. My room at my friend's house was covered in posters and photographs of legendary bands like The Doors, as well as the images of Jim Morrison, The Doors frontman, performing his famous poses all over the place. Heavy metal bands were also on display. These were pulled from metal publications, and they all shared one thing in common. I noticed they were watching me, judging me, and being entertained by me when the musicians' faces were changing and morphing. They also appeared to have a method of emerging from the page, and they weren't just images anymore. They were people who lived, breathed beings. Jim Morrison could see me. When I realised it wasn't real, I was terrified again, because I knew I had no idea what to anticipate next. Was there anything more powerful, overpowering on the horizon? There were times when things felt like they were getting a bit out of hand, and my head wasn't sure how to react. It was such unknown territory for me, but after a while everything became quite pleasurable once I got used to this way of being. At this point, I wandered inside into the bathroom to take a piss. I couldn't help but stare into the mirror as soon as I started to walk by it. It was quite a large mirror. I stared into the mirror and I witnessed myself morph from a 16-year-old teenager into an 85-year-old man. This was quite frightening toward the end of my blank stare, but at the start it was kind of playful and entertaining. It felt pretty strange to become this old man. It wasn't like I was feeling 85 years old, but it was more like I was witnessing myself as if I was that age. It was a very different perspective, and it made me feel quite sobering in a way. This got scary after I watched myself morph from a 16-year-old into a 60-year-old man, or however old I was, but once I got around to 85, that's when I tapped out and headed out of the bathroom in fear. It was a lot to take in. I headed to the room where this trip started, my friend's bedroom, and his dogs tripped me out a bit. One of them was a husky, and the other one was a smaller dog, which I do not know the breed. I felt as if the dogs could feel my shifting frequency, especially the husky. It was weird and a bit unsettling. So I closed my eyes. The room is spinning slowly around me. But this is okay because I'm with them. The walls, floor, ceiling. Everything becomes one blob-like structure and it's very bright. It's like someone has turned up the saturation on reality. I open my eyes again and everything is spinning even faster now. This freaks me out a little as I look down to the ground to try and keep myself steady. But as soon as I do this, weird fractal vista of spiral appears in colours all over them. They are twisting in front of my face. I start to get dizzy, which triggers nausea. I stand up quickly, feeling sick, and hold onto my friend for support. The room is very dark and the carpet is swaying back and forth. I feel like I'm going to puke. I can't take it anymore, so we go outside. He follows me and offers me a cigarette. We had been smoking cannabis in joints all night up until this point. This calms my nausea down a bit, but I still think I'm going to vomit any moment. After about 5 minutes of walking around outside, we sit on a wooden bench just outside his house where we smoke another 2 or 3 cigarettes for good measure. Everything feels fine now, but the visuals are still there. So my friend went to bed, so did everyone else, and I was left by myself, and I went on an adventure outside, and I'm not reading anymore, like I just read the trip report, but this is the end of the trip where I'm still kind of peaking. I had conversations with trees. I saw naked women in the sky, like forming like a crystalline pattern in the sky, intricate details everywhere. The whole sky was just naked girls in like some kind of orgy, and then it started raining in real life. And I know this because I got wet. It started pissing down, and it was just such a synchronistic moment that happened because the visuals were something that becomes wet. So that was really interesting. Now we're going to listen to a random song. I'm going to go into an album and press randomize and get that random song up. So we'll see what happens when I press the button. Okay. Okay, so this is a song called Egyptian Eskimo Reprise Edition 4. I probably recorded like a million different versions of Egyptian Eskimo, but this one's pretty cool. It's got some trap beats and stuff in there. It's very interesting. Here we go.
This thing here is started. Estimate where you think it'll cease. I've got a newfound disorder now, but I'm trapped up in this old disease. Nothing in this world is perfect, though everyone here should be fair. Why are these instincts taking hold of you? Close your eyes and blindly stare. This ability, I guess she's part of me, she's a part of me, and she won't ever see that she just keeps on fucking with me. And she here with me just to plant a seed, eat all of the feelings I knew. Serving my heart on a rusted plate, hunting for a future I knew. Well, parts of me try to accomplish, to speak of the tears I had shed. Love's just a pile of dog shit. When you build up those walls inside your head, I guess that we finished this chapter. So leave the one story we wrote. Listen to me as I try to speak, or I can sing it all note for note. On this side of my fears there's ability, and she already knows that it's killing me. And now that she can see, now that she can see, she's never gonna stop fucking around with me. Inside a part of me, there's a piece of you. Eat all of the feelings I serving my heart on a rusted plate. Finished with nothing going for me or you.
So that was Egyptian Eskimo Reprise Edition 4. Hope you enjoyed. Helps break up the episode a little bit, and I'm just working on new ideas and stuff and seeing which direction I want to go with this podcast, because this podcast is about absolutely anything and all things. It's going to be like about my journey, my trip reports, what's happening in the world, video games, spirituality, esoteric, occult, mysticism kind of stuff, Gnosticism and all that. And sexuality, gender, it's about all things in all ways. Even reviews. And speaking of reviews, I've actually been trying to come up with kind of like a article about my favorite artist in the world. I think she is literally my favorite artist right now. She has been for about 2 years, but my love for her music has only grown more and more over a very long time. Slowly realizing that her music has such depth to it, because she's what I'd define as an esoteric artist. Particularly her album Let Her Breathe and her single Sky. Sky is a very gorgeous song, and it has a lot of personal meaning to me. But I've come up with quite a comprehensive article about her music and her album in particular, Let Her Breathe. And I'm partial to her because she is my favourite artist. I mean, I found her music in late 2020, shortly after the album came out, and it's only got better with time. And I'd say she's an esoteric artist. Defining what makes a great esoteric artist is difficult, but one important aspect is that they have gifts that come from the spirit, or whatever you want to call it. Gifts might be in the form of music, poems, art, dance, anything. Another very important aspect is that these gifts are meant to help us understand concepts we wouldn't normally understand through normal means. This doesn't mean everyone would agree on exactly what a given artist's gifts mean either. Everyone has their interpretation based on where they're at in their lives and spiritual evolution. What makes Emily Nicholas such an important esoteric artist to me, in my personal opinion, is that she can hide deeper meaning in the songs. It's not just her lyrics and music, but it's also how she performs certain things on stage. Many individuals probably don't detect these obscure meanings listening to her music at face value, but they do make sense when you listen carefully and comprehend what you're hearing, which may take some time for this sort of material. But for me, it didn't really take much time, because when I first heard Let Her Breathe, I was pretty psychotic. I mean, not psychotic in the sense that I was hearing voices and hallucinating, but in the sense that I was delusional. I was having grandeur delusions, like solipsism and stuff, and thinking I created this and I can do anything and all this. Real or not, it's just a nonsensical way of living, because you can't live like that. It just doesn't work. Who's going to take you seriously if you go up to him and say, "I'm God"? I think we're all pretty special too when I'm not having delusions of grandeur. I've also realized that when I'm having delusions of grandeur, I record music, and usually I record music that's on the spot, like spontaneous stream of consciousness music where I make everything up on the spot. And I've made many albums like that, and I think it's the greatest thing that's ever happened when I'm doing it. And then when I'm not delusional, I look back on it and say, this music's not really even that good. So a great esoteric artist would also be like Damien Rice with his songs like he performed Back to Beginning with Lamb, like in a collaboration with Lamb, and he doesn't get any songwriting credits for it. I don't think he wants to, but you can definitely hear his voice on the track for a big portion of the track. And Back to the Beginning is this like idea, don't think I'm going back to beginning. And it just opened up this world for me, like a song like that. So Damien Rice would be a great esoteric artist, and like 100 Miles Across the Room's another one. Like all these tracks that he's really, like all these tracks that have been, I don't know, it's just amazing. But what makes a great esoteric artist? That's the question to ask. And is it the ability to hide deeper meaning in the songs? Or is it the idea that the artist is such a pure vessel for the music to channel through, that deeper meanings in their tracks make themselves known without the artist's direct awareness of that happening? And then does it translate through the ears and hearts of the listeners who are open to deeper truths? Or am I looking too deep at this? So like, I've found like heaps of deeper meanings in a lot of different music, like and there's bands like Tool who are just pretty, you could get so many different meanings from their music. A new band I'm listening to is called Swans. They're very interesting. They're like an experimental band. Some of it's like noise core, and some of it's like experimental folk, however you want to say folk or folk. It doesn't really matter. It's a bit like Tool as well, but they're a pretty old band, like from the 80s, I believe, late 80s. Could be wrong. I'm very new to Swans. And then there's Squid. Squid's a really good band that I've just recently discovered. They released an album recently. I think either at the end of last year or early this year. And like they've got a song called Narrator and another song called Boy Racers. And both those songs definitely have deeper meaning to them. But the idea is that music, when you're typing out the lyrics to a song and you're having that moment of muse, are you actually tapping into a consciousness, either your higher self or God, and then channeling that through? And then when you're writing lyrics to music, are you, like if you get a beat off the internet and you want to like make a rap over a beat, are you joining in that collective consciousness that beat was made in, and then channeling through into that beat, if you know what I mean? Yeah, I've found hidden, deeper and esoteric meanings through Emily's music. Emily, I think that's how you pronounce her name. Her music that transcends what I thought possible with music creation. There are many examples throughout this review where deeper meanings exist within her tracks, thus moving beyond what is normally considered pop music, thus making Emily a truly esoteric artist. So I'm reading my review right now of like certain parts of it, but I'm trying to just use it as a guide, I guess. But this is what I wrote. Readers. I said, before listening to any of the other songs on this album, I highly suggest that you listen to Who's Gonna Love You first to gauge whether you like what you hear or not. And if she's your vibe, listen to the album from the beginning to end. Let's get down to business with my findings and summaries. This is pretty lame. While there are a few nuggets of truth in this article, I do perceive some psychic judgment coming from the viewers in the future. Let's talk about my conclusions and summarizations, is that even a word, of the songs on Emily Nicholas's Let Her Breathe. So Who's Gonna Love You is a good introduction to her music. I suggest you go and listen to that as soon as possible. A pretty depressing kind of idea that I got about this song at a hard point in my life was I felt like I was giving a lot of love to people. This is a pretty selfish thing too, what I'm about to say, but I felt like I was giving a lot of love to people, and then I was pretty down and out, and at this point in my life I was kind of a bit suicidal, to be honest. I'm not anymore, but I was at this point in my life. Still have my hard days, but at this point in my life I was pretty depressed, and I wanted to leave. I wanted to go somewhere. I wanted to go home. What my home would be, I don't know, but I wanted to go there where I felt like I belong. And the idea was, who's gonna love you if I don't? That's the lyrics of the song. Who's gonna love you if I don't? And let me let go. Da-da-da-da. It's just such a beautiful song. And I cried because it hit me so hard. Like, who's going to love you if I don't? I don't know. That's a pretty selfish thing to say, but like, I don't know. That's pretty personal. And I think we have these personal moments in our lives where it might seem selfish on the outside, but all the thought processes and moments that led to that particular moment, it's not selfish at all. It's a very emotional experience. And yeah, especially if you don't have anyone to talk to about it. So the first track, the opening track on Emily Nicholas's, I'm trying to get her name right, the first track on her album, Let Her Breathe, is called Outro, which is a very interesting thing to put at the start of a album, is the title Outro, suggesting that whatever you were listening to prior, you can throw it out the window because now you're at the outro of whatever you were listening to before, and now you're going into a new world. That's how I kind of look at it. And then you go on into this world of Let Her Breathe. So the outro is the opening track. It envelops the listener in dusk-filled dream pop that recalls subtle memories of loves lost and found, meandering over ripples of synth. As Nicholas sings with her dusky voice, if I told you I love you, would it turn you off? I've been living inside your phone. so long. So I'm going to read from my article here, kind of some ideas that I put down. These sound a bit crazy and bizarre, but we'll see how you react. I reckon it'll be funny. So here's what I wrote. The following is a random arse rambling. Just some ideas and concepts to exercise the creative aspects of our minds. One idea I have about these strange lyrics, and of course it could be as simple as she's just trying to send a text from her phone and is saying she's been inside your phone for so long, meaning that she is in your contacts, is that she was created inside the phone. She could be a robot or artificial intelligence software made to look, think and act like a human being. The only way for her to get out of this phone would be if she started calling people randomly while waiting in the background of the owner's screen. One other idea is that she had always been living inside an old iPhone, because it does sound like when you listen to the lyrics, I've been living inside your iPhone so long. It's so subtle, but it almost sounds like she's saying iPhone. So one other idea is that she had always been living inside an old iPhone and it finally died. But when you buy a new one, not all iCloud backups are transferred over completely, hence why she has no memory or knowledge about anything past that phone. Another idea is that someone who owned this iPhone passed away before she could say goodbye, I love you. I also had a hunch that this lady was a separate consciousness living in another dimension who possessed her own body but perished somehow somewhere, and that individual still wants to communicate / be with you. The girl who lives inside the iPhone could be Amelia's soul or her unresolved energy that wants to be reunited with the man she loves. The phone is just a vessel for her / our spirits to travel through time and space. She could also be with you stuck in time, wondering why no one ever responds to you on your iPhone. These lyrics could mean so many things, yet we can't get any closer to sure guesses at this point. So that's probably that is literally the craziest thing about this article, and I'm probably going to take a lot of that out or edit it so it sounds less intense and weird and esoteric or whatever, even though that's the point of the article, is talking about esoteric artists. But the point is, an esoteric artist can kind of make you go inside and get all this wealth and pool of knowledge just from listening to the songs. And you know, the lyrics can guide that, and you can formulate so many different ideas based on the lyrics. It's just incredible what you can pull from a song. So the next song is Tsunami. And what's the lyrics of Tsunami? It's kind of like, I freeze your tears, make icicles, and the heart is cold, couldn't be that old. You deserve better weather, baby. All you wanted was a beach to lay on. You got a tsunami breaking behind me. Ooh. So what I did with Tsunami was I kind of summarized the whole of the lyrics into paragraphs that encapsulate what she's talking about through the song. And it's the way the song's constructed is so fucking cool. And this is less about the esotericism in the songs from here on, and more about deconstructing. This is just the process I'm in right now, where I'm creating this article and just wondering where the hell I'm going to go with it. And I want to have like the article be about esoteric artists, and Amelia Nicholas in particular being an esoteric artist. But I found myself just finding so much in her lyrics that I didn't have to like put any of my own thoughts in. I didn't have to put any of my own ideals in and ideas and outcomes of her lyrics. I just had to translate them so I could understand them better. And yeah, so from here on, it's not really about the esoteric part anymore. It's more like Tsunami. This is my take on the song, which I can describe as a lovely demonstration of being honest with oneself and one's partner. Amelia appears to be envisioning a person who thinks they're doing their best to keep it in, but is unable to contain themselves and tells their partner that they deserve way better weather than the storm they've been dishing out towards them. So that's the summary. So the lyrics of the opening lyrics is, I started lashing out for reasons I don't know about. You know, I tried my best not to let it out. Sometimes it's hard to hold it in. You know, it's hard to hold it in. And then it continues on, but I don't want to get in trouble for copyright singing it. So I wrote, for reasons I'm unaware of, I started striking out. I do my best to keep it in, but sometimes it's hard to contain it, and you deserve better weather, baby. You just wanted a beach to relax on, but I'm bringing you a tsunami instead. You deserve better weather, baby. It's not all roses in life. I'll be there. Everything will be over in a second, okay? I love it when you enjoy yourself and the same things that I enjoy. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How do you deal with me? You have the option to depart. I am capable of freezing your tears and forming icicles. This is an ice-cold heart that shouldn't be beating at all. What are you going to do to love me? Love is an intense feeling of deep affection. Love is also a virtue representing all of human kindness, compassion and affection, the unselfish, loyal and benevolent concern for the good of another. So to love someone, you must show concern for their well-being and place that above your own needs or interests. Aristotle defined love as to will the good of another, not just to seek pleasure or emotional happiness, but to actively work towards the betterment of another person. That means loving others not because they make us feel a certain way, but because we see them as deserving of our care and attention. Love is a characteristic feature of a deeper kind of relationship called friendship, which can exist between any people, even strangers who have never met before. It may also be experienced by groups, for an example an office, organizations or nations. Love in its various forms acts as a major facilitator of interpersonal relationships, and owing to its central psychological importance is one of the most common themes in the creative arts. So for reasons I'm unaware, I started lashing out. I do my best to keep it in, but sometimes it's hard to contain, and you deserve better weather, baby. That's pretty much the essence of the song, and I really like it. But for me, when I listened to it, it was more about my personal experiential listening to that song, opening my ears to it and indulging in the song. It was more like tsunami breaking behind me and I'm holding on for dear life and it's going to take me home or something like that. Or coming into life, coming into form, coming into the 3D. I just wanted the beach to lay on. That was my dream when I was in the higher realms. And then I got a tsunami. That's kind of how I felt at the time. And when I first listened to this, like I said, I was pretty out of sorts. So there's more to that article. I just went over a little bit of it. It'll probably be released one day. It'll be like a comprehensive review on Let Her Breathe. It'll probably be pretty long, 5,000 words or so. Maybe more. 8,000 max. And just gonna take it by ear and edit it every now and then. I've never really written a review or an article based on a musician before, so it's very new ground for me. I'm gonna hit the button again and we'll have a random song. Here we go. So this is a jam I had with my friend J. Andrew Birchall. It was online with a drummer, a bass player, and me and Jay on guitars, and Jay had a bit of a sing-song as well. And it was just completely spontaneous, and the jam went on for a while, but this is the best part of it. And yeah, it's a very cool thing. I like it. We used a program called Ninjam, which is a plugin that runs inside of a DAW, and then you're able, like a digital audio workstation, and then you're able to jam with many different people, members of Ninjam online. It's an incredible thing, and you get almost zero latency. This jam kind of reminds me of the Grateful Dead in a way. Just like a free-form, breezy, flowing instrumental part here. I'll shut up now. I think it's awesome. I couldn't reply to him during the jam because I didn't have my microphone set up properly. I couldn't figure it out. Jake probably could, but I couldn't. I only had access to my guitar, so it's me playing the clean rhythm guitar part. He's doing all the solos, and he's doing all the singing. Pretty incredible work. Are you having a kale overdose yet? So if you haven't already, and you probably have because you found this podcast, and I don't know where it's going to be released, but first it's going to be on scorpico.com. So if you haven't checked out scorpico.com, go ahead and check it out. There's new stuff added all the time. I'm working on this to be a database of not just my music, but a lot of creative ideas and a collaboration kind of collaborative project. To finish off the podcast, I might go for a little longer. I'll talk about, because I got my notes app up here on my iMac and I'm just looking through it, and there's some dreams, and one of these dreams was really interesting, and I actually recollect a lot of it, partly because I wrote down the whole thing, but it was just such a vivid dream. And sometimes with dreams you can remember a lot of them. It's like, you know, that unconscious kind of lets you have it sometimes, lets you keep some of the ideas and visions on board. But this was a weird dream. It didn't have any spiritual significance. Oh, maybe it did, but it didn't seem like it had any spiritual significance. But I titled this one Red Dead Virtual Reality, The Moldy Dream. So I was at like a conference festival, which is like, when I say conference festival, I mean like a lifestyle arts culture festival, like Confest. So that's kind of what the dream reminded me of. It was like I was returning to a festival of sorts, where there's a lot of collaboration and a lot of love and laughter and just happiness and hippies and free love. And there's lots of hugging going on and stuff, but this came later in the dream. A lot of hugging and kissing. So I was at this conference festival. I showed up and was led to a wall on one side of the room. But before this happened, I like created my own character. So it was like a video game dream. It was one of those, I don't know if you've had many video game dreams, but I've had quite a few where it feels like you're living inside a video game, and you even get to do crazy stuff like edit your character. So like in this menu in the dream, it was like a conscious experience of experiencing what the character creation was while simultaneously being that person, even if it was from a third perspective, even if it was from outside of the body. I could feel myself being those characters that I chose. So I was like scrolling through. I didn't have like a controller. I was like doing it with my mind. I was changing characters. I ended up choosing a moldy character with a backstory and a cool appearance. So then I was taken to this room. So it started off like a Red Dead Redemption 3 virtual reality game. So it was like based on Red Dead Redemption, which is interesting. Mixing violent video games with conference festivals is very stupid. But that's just what my dream was. And I'm a video gamer and a hippie, so here I didn't have any memory of who I was in my actual life or what I was doing. I just accepted what I was doing. So I chose my character, and then I was led to this room. On the wall of the room, there was an image of a carrot and a bunch of images. And these images were of people. And some of them were symbols. But there was mainly just a picture of the carrot. That was the main point of this wall, was this picture of this orange, just normal looking green top carrot. And I was standing at the back of the room, and there was another character with his girlfriend, like his partner. So these was like a couple characters. So he was with his girlfriend, and he was having a hard time figuring out the puzzle. And at this point, I didn't know if it was a puzzle. But he spent a long time trying to figure it out, or at least trying to, and he couldn't. So he gave up, and he was kind of kicked out of the game, so he got escorted out of the building. So now it was my turn. I was led to the wall and asked, "What do you see?" I was just looking at this carrot, and I'm thinking, what do I see? I see a carrot. I didn't say any of this out loud in the dream. But before that, I turned around and looked on the wall opposite the carrot wall, and there was a mathematical equation that the last couple was writing down, trying to figure out the carrot scenario. So this couple were literally writing on the wall, trying to figure out this carrot with these images and trying to figure out this scientifically with their intellectual minds. And when I was analysing the equation, I said, hey, no cheating. So I went up to the wall and I stared at the carrot. After a while, I looked down and I saw one of the images, and like there was a bunch of images of people from previous conference festivals. And I swear to God, some of these pictures that I saw in the dream were of actual people I met at Confest. Some of these people, and Confest is like it's in rural, it's in the middle of nowhere, in close to the border of Victoria, New South Wales, and Australia, and it's just a festival that's held once a year. Due to COVID, this festival was like postponed a few times. But yeah, when I looked down and saw the pictures, I was talking to myself, and I had a thick Māori accent. Māoris are the indigenous natives from New Zealand, so I was one of them in the dream. I looked at this one particular picture of a woman laying down next to a younger lady, and I pretty much instantly cried. And I said, I remember her from Confest 2015. And then the guide held me from behind and cried with me and told me, congratulations, welcome to the festival. So this was kind of like a test of empathy. So the other people didn't get in because they were using intellectual mind to try and figure out this crazy carrot situation. It was a way of filtering people out. This dream didn't make any sense towards the end because of what happened, because obviously people who aren't empathetic got in, and it was kind of like a contradiction to the whole idea, but a pretty cool idea for a dream. I don't take credit for what my mind does in dreams. I think it's lessons taught by something else, some kind of higher power. Even if that higher power is the superconscious or the subconscious mind, or goddess or god. And then I entered the festival through a door, and then there was heaps of dancing, and I remember being in love with everyone. I came across some familiar faces. This is the amazing thing about festivals, is there's just such freedom. Like, I remember Yamea 2015. Yamea was amazing. It's like psytrance music and even some dub electronic music. And Captain Hook played there. He was amazing. And Ruben Stone, I don't know if you've seen that Melbourne busker who uses a trumpet on the streets of Melbourne busking near Burke Street. He's always there. Don't know if he still does it today, but he did back then, and he got on the list for Yamea on the small stage. That was cool. I got some stories about him and some stories about my journey in Yamea. Maybe for another time I'll talk about my mental health journey and stuff. But later in the dream, there was someone in a room with a gun, and he asked me to take some drugs with him. I can't remember what drugs, but... And yeah, at this point, in the dream, I consciously thought, I don't know how he got into the virtual festival. He aimed the gun at my head and at one point yelled, I'm obviously not joking around, like, do the drugs kind of thing. And there was someone behind him at a table with a water bottle who scrunched up the water bottle and acted like he was about to hit the guy with the gun across the head with it. So crunched up water bottles, as if that would do anything. Everyone started laughing, and it turned out the gun thing was a bit of a joke. That is most of what I remember from this dream, Kale beaming out, and that's kind of what I wrote down. So, yeah, that's some interesting stuff. I found it really funny, like, how my mind could create something as intricate and, I say the word intricate a lot, something so detailed and mind-bending. It was so real. We have multiple dreams every night, probably thousands of dreams every night, and we just can't remember, and we just take away the last one that we remember. But yeah, okay, I'd like to thank you for being here with me today, whenever it is you found this. It's 23rd of January on a Sunday at 12:11 a.m, and I'm finishing the podcast up. This is the Cale Anderson podcast. And I'll leave you with the theme song by Eustace, or Old Timer. from Twitch. Thank you.
There once was a guy living in a land down under, writing songs for the ages, only meant for the big stages. He had some ups and downs, but you won't see a frown, 'cause he's a positive fella. You can stand under his umbrella. Yeah, he's nice like that. He'd even give you his hat. But when you order some salad, he will without a fail. He will take your kale, 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 'cause his name is that. Kale, 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 kale. No, he will never get kale, 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 kale. He's good for you. Kale, 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 kale. He's a really good dude. C to the A to the L to the not the vegetable, the person. That's right. Wait, what's his name again? Kale.